In order to keep it close in this game, High Point needs to save some shots, and that's where they turn to Zach Overend, who has a save rate just under 50%. Meanwhile, for Syracuse, in his second year with the program, one of the 10 seniors being honored tonight for Senior Day, Will Mark, 55% save rate on the season. Although he's not starting, another senior for the Orange is Jake Stevens. In his first time back in the lineup in 3 games, Stevens back in the lineup for Syracuse, and that is a huge deal as a massive addition in the offseason, Tyler, for Syracuse.
Especially given the fact that he hasn't played these last 2 games. Syracuse could have used him against Army. Let's see if they can use him today.
They'll use him on the wings to start, where Mason Cohen, another one of the big-time additions in the offseason from Tufts, wins the opening draw and takes a huge shot as the Fogo loses the ball, and we're underway from the Dome. There is Christian Muley, who tries to find a man on the doorstep. It was Spallina, but the rebound goes in for Syracuse. Then Thompson cleans up the mess and puts the Orange on the board to get things going.
Just really, really gritty offense from Finn Thompson to follow up. He's only 150 pounds. He shakes off the pole, picks up the ball, scores himself. I mean, that's just pure effort. That's not strength. That's giving a care about what you're doing. There's a reason he had 3 goals against Utah just last week.
But that loss to Army, that was a legitimate overtime defeat where Syracuse had some opportunities to win.
It was. Joey Spallina took not a great look at Cage, guarded by 2 defenders, and then obviously had the missed open goal by Muley.
Open goal for a man dodging down the near side, Colin Cook. You know, statistically, Jake Stevens offensively might not put up the gaudy numbers, but the #1 impact transfer, according to Inside Lacrosse in the preseason, coming from Princeton. Muley, a no-look feed, and a score! Good to get Joey Spallina going.
I mean, he was so due for a goal. It wasn't like he wasn't putting up shots last time out. He took 5 of them against West Point, just couldn't find the back of the net. But how about that beautiful setup there by Muley? That's what opens up Spallina's game, because Muley can play at X. That means Spallina can be in front of the goal more.
And what did Gary Gate and Christian Muley say after that Army loss? How about we help out Joey Spallina and get him moving off the ball? And that's exactly what you saw there as the middle school buddies from Long Island just connect with each other. Muley trying to create more for Syracuse, but he's doubled. Spallina back from X. Gets his hands free and scores again. Number 22 already with 2 first-quarter goals, and the Cuse up 3.
He's playing catch-up. He knew he needed to pad his goal stats a little bit after putting up a nothing burger against Army, fading away. I mean, that's impressive. Zach Brenfeld has been a solid defender so far for High Point. Caused turnovers in every game he's played this year. But in terms of man-to-man defense, he's totally outmatched by Spallina. Stevens with a stutter step and hesitation. And I think everybody thought he was shooting, except for Burt Whistle. He realized that was to him and knocks it right in.
Syracuse opened this thing up easily. 4-0 lead. First time the Orange have had a 4-0 lead to start a game at any point this season. 3rd straight possession for Syracuse. High Point, its first ever trip to the Dome, first ever game against the Orange. Although these 2 teams played a fall ball scrimmage 2 years ago, and well, this is the real thing. And it gets a little bit different when it's the real thing. And Michael Leo has been the real deal in his sophomore season, as it's now 5-0 SU.
Dating back to last year, Leo, 13 straight games at the goal. This one, unlucky number 13, he's lucky number 7. And again, doing it himself. A lot of his goals with his hat trick against Maryland were isolation goals, not off assists. He does the same thing right here. Does a great job creating his own shot.
And he's going to take that matchup all day, every day against a shorty and Campbell Posen. That was a big sticking point after the Army game for Syracuse defensively, as the Black Knights were just getting after Syracuse's rope unit.
Well, you say he'll take that matchup all day, but to be fair, Posen was ranked as the best short stick defensive midfielder in the country just 2 years ago. That's quite the talented player to have a mismatch against, but that's Syracuse lacrosse.
Michael Leo, a top 40 recruit last year. The long pole, Matt Wright, let it fly.
His teammates Sam Alexo, Billy Dwan have gotten long pole goals. He wanted to join that group, couldn't quite find it.
Luke Roa gets his hands free and nearly pings one in. A pipe job robs the sophomore of a goal. The ground ball won by Muley in the orange. Tussling behind Cage, an absolute swarm for the ball. And a strong effort from High Point to get the ball back into the stick of Overend.
This is the most intense I've seen them all season.
English gets his hands free, but has no angle. Joey Spallina was talked about plenty after the Army game. Has 2 goals, and make it 3! Who says he can't dodge? Creating for himself, Spallina, a first quarter hat trick.
Well, Ian, before the game, I was talking about patience. And he had patience on that shot. Didn't force it, took his time, finds the back of the net. A 6-goal lead for Syracuse early in this one.
Big fan of a color wheel?
I guess so, sure. Those are both Halloween colors.
Syracuse spreading the wealth, giving out goals like they're, giving out candy on Halloween.
There you go.
Tic-tac-toe, 7-0 Syracuse as Christian Muley finds Twine.
Following up his big hat trick performance against Army. He's been a great passer today, had that nice assist to Spallina earlier. Finds a goal of his own, up to 2 points on the day. It's just so nice having him and Spallina interchangeable at X. It opens up so much for both of them.
High Point with just 4 shots in this first quarter. Its first was on goal, none since. Deflected on his way to Cage. Getting in the way of that shot. Van Overbeek again. Dancing with Riley Figueres, SU's top cover man. Runner is deflected. Matt Wright was having none of it in the battle of number 51s. That shot from Tommy Meehan. There's Meehan again. Ball gets kicked around and out of bounds. Another chance for High Point, deflected away. Braden Maea, that's the player you want for the Panthers with the ball in his stick. The top goal scorer in the A10. Shot clock turned off in the waning moments of the first. Van Overbeek gets his hands free and scores. Slots one in the bottom right. High Point finally on the board.
Goal number 9 on the year for Van Overbeek. Had a nice spin. I mean, Sam English, that's such a mismatch for him. Having a more offensive-minded midfielder there. And you could tell the Panthers wanted it bad. Yeah, no more mismatch, no more Sam English on the field playing defense. That's pretty much the reason High Point got a goal, because they found that mismatch against him.
Yeah, you look at the 2 Princeton transfers and you ask which one you'd rather have playing both ways. And Jake Stevens playing for his first time in 3 games, that's the guy you want on the defensive side of a ball. Let Sam English do his thing, dodging offensively. Let Joey Spallina do his thing. He's got a lot of room, and he's going to score with ease. Already 5 points for Spallina, powered by 4 goals.
In some attackmen, they get into this rhythm where they hold the ball too long. For Spallina, it had been the other problem this year. Shooting too early, getting too anxious. His patience today has been second to none, waiting to the last possible moment to shoot and score. And with his power, that's when you want to do it. A little crease crank right there, bounced it in, looking beautiful.
9 of the 11 draws for this High Point team taken successfully. Jake Stevens tried to rifle a load, a high shot upper right. A behind the back flip. An underhand shot and score. The two best players on this attack line looking like it. Van Overbeek to Braden Maia for the score.
Yeah, Matt Wright, the Syracuse pole, was caught out of position there. Went for a shove late. Figueres honestly caught out of position as well. That's way too much room for the best attackman in the A-10.
High Point survived Cleveland State on the road without both Maia and Van Overbeek. You know, in a season where he's caught a lot of flack, that must have been a fun moment for the Spallina family. Behind cage, Muley gets a step on his man, turns around and can't bounce it in. Good effort from Burt Whistle to win the ground ball to himself. It's been a slow quarter for the Orange, just one goal compared to 7 in the first. Spallina off the pick. Burt Whistle low to low, blocked away. Zach Overend. Maryland handed them out both. But then earlier today, Kayla Trainer's team, the women's squad, with a win over Duke. High Point, not winning right now, but they're fighting back. Jack Van Overbeek, his second goal. And a timeout on the field. Panthers have outscored the Orange so far in the second quarter. And that's because the two best players on High Point are back. Jack Van Overbeek gets some room off a pick and scores. Panthers still down 5. Recruiting at a mid-major compared to recruiting at Syracuse. He says he likes the mix of talent of multi-sport athletes with a lot of athleticism. As that shot from long range, Tommy Meehan can't drill it, will mark the save. Likes to mix high-level athletes with upside. On the other end, a transition score, no dice for Sam Alexo.
You look up and down this roster, you've got Nick Murphy from Las Vegas, Nevada. How many D1 lacrosse players do you think come from Las Vegas, Nevada? I guess not a bunch.
Well, High Point scoring in bunches in this second quarter. Off a cut, Isaiah Moran-Weeks. First goal of this game after his career game a week ago.
A personal best 4 goals against Cleveland State. Really stepped up with the absences of Maia and Van Overbeek. But just was wide open. Again, Figueres getting caught out of position. A late slide. But there you're talking about the great passing from Jack Van Overbeek. Another nice look from him at X.
High Point hasn't beaten a top 10 team since 2019. They still got a hole to claw out of and turning it over. What they almost did there isn't going to help as Nick Rizzo hit the deck. An easy save, or at least Will Mark makes it look easy. English v. Alley Dodge. Off the right pipe. Leo's one-timer doesn't go. I was thinking about Furman men's basketball team. Talking about UVA getting upset. A cut and through. Bouncer goes. The Panthers are roaring. The assist from Van Overbeek and the score from Colin Cook. The second quarter has been all High Point. 4-1 advantage. Van Overbeek from X once again.
And that wasn't really anyone caught out of position. Carter Rice, the short stick, was right in front of Cook. You can't really blame him for that. That was solid defense, just better offense.
On a step-down shot from the right alley. And it was rejected by the post as well.
There's got to be a magnet in that thing or something. That's certainly what it feels like for the Syracuse attack right now.
A hard bouncer deflects away, and the rebound corralled by Zach Overend and High Point. Matched up with Carter Rice. Rice and Van Overbeek once again. Quick stick. Back in front. Caden Cole going at it. You can hear that from all the way up here. Van Overbeek up top. What the save! The senior steps up big on senior day, trying to halt this Panthers run. But this ride presenting a challenge for Syracuse, as neither team has corralled it in the midfield. The Orange have been perfect on clears today. Play finally stopped. Syracuse has the ball.
A little bit of a late push there from Christian Muley. Some frustration clearly visible in this Syracuse team.
Off the stick of Joey Spallina, who's been great statistically, 5 points. Orange on the ride, get the ball back, and there is number 22. Back to Hiltz, wide open, that's too easy. The Orange beating the buzzer, but High Point rushes the field because the goal appears to be waved off. Frame for frame, let's see. Did Owen Hiltz fire this one off in time? On the field they say no, and they're right. It did not leave his stick before the clock hit triple zeros. Spallina had an extremely productive first quarter with 4 points. Also scored Syracuse's lone goal of the second. 5 points for Spallina, but none of them in the last 10+ minutes of game action. Will Mark with the save. Tyler, what do you think High Point has done the best defensively from the first quarter to the second?
The biggest thing has been no mistakes. I mean, High Point...
Well, no penalty there, but a Syracuse score. Michael Leo just threads the bottom left corner as the Orange break up a 4-goal unanswered run from HPU.
I say limiting mistakes on the defensive end has been great. I wouldn't necessarily call that a mistake. That's just Michael Leo being a pretty good lacrosse player and a really strong dude.
But he's still looked on top of his game, Overend has. High Point on the other end in search of its first goal past halftime. Some dodging and some more scoring for lucky number 13, Jack Van Overbeek. He's got a hat trick.
Syracuse isn't going to run away with it. You can't just flush a second quarter like that down the drain. And Van Overbeek, again, making Syracuse's best man-to-man defender, Riley Figueres, look pretty silly on the defensive half, just charged right by him.
High Point has scored 6 of the last 8 goals in this game, dating back to late in the first quarter. Van Overbeek lost his footing. And another ball lost. Moran Weeks has it checked free, but somehow they get it back and they score! Jack Van Overbeek can do no wrong.
Well, for him, he did the easy part of the job. He just sent the ball into the back of the net. The real hero on that play, Jack Sawyer, making his first start of the year, heads-up pass, knew right where to look when he picked up the ball. Taking advantage of his first starting opportunity of the year. A huge play there. The bench is getting more and more hyped after every single goal.
11 of 19 at the X. A wraparound and a good slide from Dwan. Oh my goodness! High Point's going crazy! And Braden Maia is too! A spin around score with no angle.
I mean, everybody in this stadium is in disbelief right now. Caden Cole didn't see that coming. Will Mark didn't see that coming. And guess who's responsible for a big part of this play? It's Jack Van Overbeek again with a huge pass and a fancy finish by Maia.
I don't even think Maia was looking at the goal. His second on the game. The leading goal scorer on this High Point team a season ago. Talked to Coach John Torpy. He said, I hope we have him in the lineup today. A little banged up. They haven't practiced much this week. I don't know. It looks like they're pretty good. Syracuse wins a much-needed face-off. Mason Cohn goes right down Broadway. Denied on a high-low shot. Another save for Overend. Talk about a fantastic first-ever meeting with Syracuse. The Panthers in search of their first top 10 win in half a decade. English and Allie Dodge. Spolina. A cutter. And a score! Owen Hiltz wants to make sure his senior day doesn't get spoiled.
First goal of the day for Hiltz, first point of the day from Hiltz. The assist will go to Joey Spolina. He didn't do all that much there. He was standing on his heels behind Cage. Just a nice lob of a pass. It's that simplicity and that patience that makes the offense work so well for the Orange. But still, this is far from a safe lead for SU. Both right around 50%. It's not like one has been greater than the other, and that's why Coach Gate keeps switching between them.
Getting his hands free, and a bouncer is deflected away by Overend. 24 ticks on the shot clock. Spolina, 26 assists on the year, nearly gets 27. UA's shot poked away by Overend.
This is an opportunity Syracuse can't waste in a 2-goal game.
After the penalty from Henry Mudlath. Low, deflected away. Syracuse gets the ground ball. Hiltz's shot, no dice. Syracuse keeps it thanks to Spolina. Still on the advantage.
Yeah, rush 2 shots there. Still over half of the penalty remaining. No need to force anything.
Little swim dodge and a score. Staying patient is Owen Hiltz. Back-to-back scores for number 77.
Yeah, that's the opposite of forcing anything. A beautiful, smooth swimming stroke from Owen Hiltz. His second goal in the last few minutes. 11-8, Syracuse clinging to a lead, but it's close.
Mason Cohn and Johnny Mullen talking about stopping the bleeding. They have been important in this third quarter as well at the X. Hiltz tries to stay hot. And that's exactly what he does. Making it look too easy, pumping up the crowd, and giving the Orange some breathing room.
He's on an absolute tear right now. Syracuse riding the hot hand. Beautiful dodge by him. Pings the upper corner.
This is the Owen Hiltz that Syracuse fans haven't seen in a while. Tyler, he hasn't had to take over at any point this season with all the options the Orange have on offense, but you forget at one point he was the #2 recruit in the entire country. Spolina spins inside, scores! 5 goals for Joey Spolina in his first of a second half. Orange up 5.
Spolina's been quiet since the second quarter, but a beautiful spin there again, setting up his own shot. He has worked well all day long on Zach Brenfleck, the High Point defender. And he doesn't even get too excited anymore. It's just kind of the expectation for him. And that's what makes it so hard to be a player like Spolina. When you play like this, it's expected. When you play poor, that's when it's a problem.
Especially when you wear the number 22 at Syracuse, you're always going to be under the microscope. Whatever you're looking at today, it looks pretty good. 5 goals for Spolina, that ties a career high. Jake Stevens getting mobbed, but he makes his way to cage. Behind the back flip. That is insane. That is number 22. Put that one under a microscope.
Joey Spallina with a beautiful finish, but even more impressive maybe by Jake Stevens. The failed swim dodge, getting mauled by two different defenders there, third. But Joey Spallina nails another goal. Like you said, he's 22.
After one of the worst games of his career against Army, a career-high 6 goals. And that might be the highlight of his young Syracuse career so far. Or at least from an emotional standpoint, even he, who you just mentioned, Tyler, you know, he expects this, and people should expect it from him, but he got amped after that one. Johnny Mullen, another one!
All that pent-up anger, all that frustration from a huge high-point run over the last 2 quarters. It is being thrown back at the Panthers right now. A huge run coming from Owen Hiltz to Joey Spallina. And now even face-off specialist John Mullen getting involved.
Getting involved for the first time in his Orange career as a goal scorer.
It took me almost as long to think about it than it did for them to score those goals.
Mouet finds the cutter, and he's going to do something crazy, because why not? Jackson Birtwistle. Timeout on the field. There is no stopping the number 7 Orange right now with 7 unanswered goals.
7 unanswered goals. I'm doing the math in my head. Probably about, what, 90 total seconds, maybe a few more. This has to be one of the quickest and largest runs of the entire season, not just for Syracuse, but for any team in the country.
They call lacrosse the game of runs, but this is a marathon, a sprint. I don't know what you want to categorize it as.
But just such a difference from last year when Syracuse went to 2 face-off specialists because neither of them were really stepping up to the challenge. This year, Syracuse can go to 2 because they both play well.
Jack Van Overbeek has stepped up to the challenge today, doing his best to keep High Point in it. One of the best games of his career. That's goal number 5 and point number 8.
He's been putting High Point on his back today. I mean, had nobody in front of him. Again, a late shift by Syracuse. This time, Billy Dwan, the guilty party. But he can't do it alone, and he really has been trying to. He has 8 points on 9 total goals. If he hasn't been involved, then his team hasn't really been doing anything else.
Have faced significant pressure, but both have stood up to the task. Today, it's Zach Overend and High Point. Will Marcus save. Speaking of goalies, he wants to get his name back in the conversation. That's his 7th stop of the afternoon. But High Point gets the ball back. Sheer will.
I mean, he's 5'9", 185 going against a bunch of much bigger guys.
I mean, I'm not saying it was a bad way to put it. It's very poetic. Another save for Will Mark. Reestablish any kind of momentum. Syracuse a 7-0 run. A 7-1 run, Lavin. And now a 7-2 run. As number 7 for High Point, Ryan Hines gets them in double digits.
Hines had a really tough start to the year, but now has a goal in each of the last 3 games, a total of 3 on the season, 1, 1, and 1. That last one coming against Syracuse through 2 defenders, fading away against one of the best netminders in the country. That's quite the way to pick up your first goal of the day. But again, all of these might be too little, too late. Still a 6-goal deficit. And it's taking all those opportunities. You know why that happened? Well, it's because Syracuse won 11 of 14 faceoffs in the third period.
They don't win the first faceoff to start the fourth quarter, and the momentum and the run back in the possession of High Point. Jack Sawyer with the score. Right off the faceoff win. That's back-to-back for the Panthers dating back to the last frame.
I said it earlier when he picked up a nice assist, but Jack Sawyer, making the most of his first start of the year, just pinged it.
You mentioned last year at times it got a bit ugly at the X for Syracuse, rotating with a couple different options. And Johnny Rachusa and Jack Fine. Joey Spallina, who gets the short stick matchup against Carter Rice. Draws a slide from Figueres. Pass up top, off the pipe. That shot from Sawyer, who scored the last goal for the Panthers. High Point trying to extend its win streak to 4. And pick up one of its biggest wins in program history. High to low shot from Hines, deflected off the body of Mark. Ben Overbeek frees himself up and cannot get the bottom left corner. Will Mark, he's seen the ball well in the last few minutes. 2022, where their save rate as a team hovered around 40%.
Still plenty of time left in this year, but I'm sure in the back of all the coaches' minds thinking about who the heck replaces Will Mark. Jimmy McCool, a really talented recruit, but Mark has big shoes to fill.
Still plenty of season to go, and that's not one of the top priorities just yet. Orange in search of their 5th win on the year. Luke Roa had that shot that was backed up by the Orange. Spallina trying to add to his career day. Burt whistle, no good, but the rebound is. High Point doesn't think it is, but the referees do. Chaos in front, and the goal goes to Christian Muley for now.
Yeah, it looks like Muley didn't step on the crease. It was close, but he kept his toes behind. I mean, if anything, the goalie overend really dove out of the crease, made some contact, but Muley seemed to be in the clear.
There is a challenge flag sitting at midfield, thrown out by High Point head coach John Torpy. Well, for now, the rule stands, and Maryland beat Syracuse in overtime, and Army beat Syracuse in overtime as well. The Orange trying to bounce back from that Wednesday defeat, and defensive efforts like that are going to help Carter Rice with the caused turnover and the ground ball pickup. And even if High Point can't complete the comeback, still a really impressive effort for John Torpy's squad, especially after losing by double-digit goals at home to Duke earlier this season. A transition chance, a long pull shot, a rebound not scooped up. Mark finally gets his stick on it. Trying to lull this High Point defense to sleep and potentially deliver the knockout punch. Spallina finally decides to do it himself, and that's usually a good thing. Joey Spallina adding to the career high with 7 goals. 7-goal lead as well for the Orange with 6 minutes to go.
The ultimate prove-it game for Joey Spallina. Look, I know it's against unranked High Point, but no goals.
Oh, man, that just, sorry to cut you off, Tyler, that leaked right out of a cross of Overhand.
Certainly not one of the prettier goals by Spallina, but 7 is no accident. Maybe you have 1 or 2 mixed in there, but you can't get lucky for all 7 goals. And just so good for him mentally after that 0-goal performance against Army that we've been talking about all day long.
A point away from tying his career high, which he set earlier this season against Manhattan here in the Dome. A pass knocked down, and Syracuse comes away with it again.
Not at all, and it's especially big because the score is not going to look too ugly either. And I know Gary Gate will probably say he doesn't care about the rankings, but after a loss earlier in the week, then if you only win by a bit to High Point, the rankings could fall quite a bit when the new poll comes out next week. This will be a respectable final score, and Syracuse will drop, but maybe not by too much.
High Point, meanwhile, who knows? Maybe they get some more votes. It's not going to be an extremely tight final score, but they battled all day. Off a stick of Will Mark, the running shot from Tommy Meehan. 13 saves from Mark on his senior day. Low to low goes. Just shuffled that one in there. Braden Maia, a hat trick. And his first game back from a small injury.
And that one was pretty because it pinged off one end, one pipe, and then bounced to the other, from one side to the other. It's kind of like in bowling when you have a split and you get that one pin to go over to the other side. Maybe he practiced that the other day because High Point did just go bowling as a team, Ian.
I knew you were going to go there too, Tyler. Still Zach Overend in net for High Point. 17 saves. Not one there. The captain on senior day, Brett Tenaglia, gets on the scoreboard.
A redshirt senior, someone who's put in 5 years of work for the Orange and doesn't play a whole ton, but he's a captain for a reason. He's a leader. And hey, when he is put on the field, he can find the corner pretty easily.
And fitting as well that the man who found him, another one of the veterans on this team who doesn't see a ton of run, in Blake Earlbeck. 2 of the 10 celebrating senior day. Tenaglia, his 4th game of the season and his 2nd goal. Lost to Hopkins earlier today. Duke last night to Penn, who's rattled off 2 impressive wins. One against Delaware, a ranked team. In close to score. Duffy can't stop that one as Braden Maia blitzed by Veneer Pipe and put it in high to high for goal number 4 on the game. These two are going to have High Point in good hands the rest of the way, Tyler. Maia and Van Overby combining for 9 of their 13 goals.
It's quite the impressive duo there. For Duffy, he just guessed wrong. He could have either gone high, gone low. He went low, shot went high. I mean, we could bring up pretty much every sport today.
That's the beauty of the Dome. You never know what sport's going to be here one day to the next. Basketball one day, lacrosse the next. Duffy, a big-time save, and he scoops up the ground ball. Is going to be back at home at Vert Stadium on Tuesday. Another difficult test. Georgetown, the number 11 team in the country. We talked about ACC upsets. The previously 19th ranked Hoyas knocked off Notre Dame last weekend, who was ranked number 1. And then they also go to the Crown Classic, just like Syracuse a week from today. High Point does. And they play Jacksonville, who almost knocked off Michigan earlier this week.
Everybody's following this season.
It's what you like to see, some parity. But today, on senior day, Syracuse showed up. Showed up at the start, showed up at the finish, and that's all you really need.